Aloha mai kako, a Komamai curtain call, a program of reviews, previews, interviews, and features of and or with the great art and artists on Maui and beyond. I'm Paul James Brown. Before I begin, I have to tell you about my trip on Delta Airlines to the mainland. I had a premonition about this flight. Now, I'm not an airy-fairy type, and I do not regularly see into the future, but I was not surprised by what happened. For some reason, I booked my hotel check-in on the East Coast for 9 p.m., even though we were originally scheduled to arrive at JFK at 4:05 p.m. EST. And I was unable to change it to what I thought would be my check-in at around 5 p.m. Lucky thing. We left Maui on time at 8:46 p.m. and arrived in LA at 5 a.m. at gate 35A. My connecting flight was at gate 25A. I thought, great, must be right around here. But no, 25A is on the other side of the Terminal A. So one has to walk a long way. At least it was in the same terminal. I got to the gate and they were loading another flight to JFK. Something told me to try and get on this flight, but I didn't listen to that prescient voice. At 7:45, we were ready to depart for JFK. We sat, then came an announcement telling us there was a problem with the right engine and it would have to be restarted. Okay, no big deal. Several minutes went by, and then another announcement telling us it would be a few minutes. 15 minutes later, we were told the mechanics were diligently working on the problem, and it would be fixed, and we would be on our way very soon. After another 20 minutes came the announcement the problem was more serious, and we would be on the ground for at least another hour. Passengers began to deplane, and then came the announcement deplaning was not required, but optional. So we returned to our seats, and then a few minutes later came the announcement we all would have to deplane for about an hour. This was about 9:45 a.m. We were initially told the delay would be until 10:30, and then we were informed it would be 11. In the meantime, the folks who were waiting for our flight to clear realized their flight would not only be delayed, but they were changing the departure gate. We all got a $15 food voucher from Delta. There is nothing you can buy at the airport for $15. When I used it at JFK, I got a turkey club for $14.49, but there was $2.49 more I had to pay. Amazingly, we reboarded our flight at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It felt like Groundhog Day. We had been there for more than 4 to 5 hours. We were given chips at around 12:30. Then the flight attendants came with drinks and snacks, corn chips, which due to my dietary restrictions I cannot have, and cinnamon cookies. And that was the food for the entire trip. We had been with them for what would be 12 hours, and we got a measly $15 food voucher, which you couldn't buy much of anything with, and snacks and drinks, no food. You couldn't even buy it because they didn't have it on the plane. Talk about incompetence and lack of planning. We arrived at 7:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and didn't get to the gate for another 36 minutes. Then they told us our bags were going to be at kiosk 11, but they were really at 10. Here is what one of the first-class passengers, Lisa DeBrow, had to say about her experience.
My TV remote out of the little box, so she had to come over and pry it out like with a fork, and then I couldn't get my tray table back in, so she came over and went, "You have to whack it." And it went in, and then somebody else's seat was stuck in the up position like this for this poor lady, and they had to come over and try to fix that. It was one thing after another.
The return began with an unannounced nor notified gate change. Then, when I tried to purchase a sandwich, they were sold out, and because of my dietary restrictions, I would have to purchase food I could not eat in order to get some cheese. So, if you're planning a trip, avoid Delta at all costs. They talk a good talk, but the walk is another story altogether. They did give us 2,500 miles in addition to the 4,000 the trip actually was, but it certainly did not compensate for the disgusting lack of customer service nor planning the airline represents. And they serve cold Cabernet Sauvignon. WTF. I want to mention that the staff and flight attendants are wonderful, suffering through the greed and incompetence of their management. I sympathize with them and do not fault them in any way. They are on the front lines of an airline that has no clue about customer service.